Welcome, everyone, to the Temple of Clarity in Vista, California for our Tuesday meditation, our Tuesday encounter with the love that is actually everywhere. And do we allow this love into our lives? Are we receiving this light from our Father, Mother, Creator? Are there any blocks in the mind and belief systems or ideas, things that you've accepted that interfere with the direct flow of love pouring from above, pouring from Mother Earth herself, in all directions, in all dimensions, in all places? Let's take a moment and check in with our higher self. Are we loving ourselves today? Are we embodying that love? Are we hearing the song of love from the universe? Are we appreciating the love sent to us, given by others, by their free will, by their loving acceptance, loving communion? And now as we go down this checklist and open the gateways to love within our consciousness, within our hearts, minds, souls, and spirits, we feel repolarized. We feel this electricity of God love flowing effortlessly in, through, and around. And we create around us a bubble of love, a holy frequency that attracts angels, that attracts the holy ones of God, the little ones, the gnomes, the elves, the sylphs, the fairies, who joyously accept the love that you emanate and begin to glow with a light and a happiness because you chose to be the crystal of love in time and space. During this meditation, let us go deep into this knowing of love. Deep into the realization that we are loved, cherished, doted upon by the Divine Mother, by the angels. And just accept in every level, in every particle of your being, this love light into every cell and every atom. And then when you begin to glow with a holy glow, look for the face of the Divine Mother as she comes into this room, into this place, into this portal of light. In the name of the Christ, I call to you, O Blessed Mother, Our Lady of Guadalupe, beloved Lady Venus, beloved Lady Clarity and Lady Christine, beloved Guru Ma, and all the love from all the divine mothers in all the heaven worlds to come now and fill this planet with your divine love, with your light and fire, with your joy and healing presence, that we may see you, feel you, and be like you. Come, O Holy Ones, come, O Holy Spirit, come, O Violet Flame. Clear the way for the Blessed Mother to walk physically on the earth in her second coming. So now we'll have a short meditation. Let us see with the eye of spirit, know with the mind of God, and feel with the heart of the Divine Mother. coming back. We'll have a short 3 or 4 minute intermission as we get ready for our special guest speaker. So those of you on the broadcast, you will be able to type in your questions in the chat. And at the appropriate time, we'll have the question and answers. So those of you on the broadcast, you will be able to type in your questions in the chat. Welcome back, everyone. I hope you had a very blissful meditation. I sure did. And it's interesting to think about that sometimes we block the flow of love in our lives. And I went through every place I could in consciousness within myself to open those doors to receive more love, which is love fire, love light, holy love. And the more love we can absorb in our minds, in our hearts, in our souls, the more God-like we become, the more sunlight we become, the more we shine with an inner joy. So I want to thank Lady Clarity for giving me that little teaching this today. I guess it was more directed to myself. I want to welcome Michaela from Arizona, who drove all the way over here, formerly from Mount Shasta, and Kathleen is online, and she says hello, and Chloe says hello, and others are online are watching from the comfort of their own homes.
Awesome.
Anxiously waiting to hear the new thoughts for the fifth dimension. And I want to thank you and really honor you for your dedication to love and to the light and to this awakening process that everyone on earth needs to hear about. Take it away.
Okay, hi. I'm Michaela Cordeo. Some of you know me, and others probably never heard of me. I've been working with the Ascended Masters for about 35 years now. Jesus was my first teacher, followed by Hilarion and Saint Germain, and then a number of others. I've explored many different healing modalities and different traditions. I was raised Catholic, as many were, and studied Tibetan Buddhism and had an Indian guru for a number of years. And so I worked with a Native American shaman for a while. Many traditions and many ways of exploring the nature of God and our reality. Right now, we've just come through an amazing 2020. And I know most people are hoping that some of the amazingness of it will be dissipating into something happier, better, and more joyful. And part of that is our own job. I recently got another lesson in the biblical saying, give thanks in all things, not just the good things, everything. So what I prepared for you today is some things. I know many of you are very advanced students of the light and working with the masters, and perhaps others are not as advanced, but still awakening. So I prepared some things that you might not have come across yet in your own teaching and studying. And I'm going to begin by, we're going to create a unified field here and with all the people listening. About 20 years ago, I worked with a team of people in Mount Shasta exploring how to set this field and how to co-create from that presence. So we start by just taking a moment, and you can place your hands on your heart if you wish, and just gently say, I am that I am. I am that I am, and invite your I am presence, that individualized aspect of the allness, to really anchor fully in your heart. And if it's already anchored fully, you can invite more of that presence, because there's this infinite amount of more that we can know and love and experience. So just breathe. Knowing with each breath, in Sanskrit, it's said that you're saying the name of God with each breath. The sound that comes in is hum, and the sound that goes out is sa, and in Sanskrit, that's I am that. So every breath we're saying the name of God. So let's do it consciously, inviting that presence, that love, to fully fill us and lift us. And from that place of feeling filled with love, make a heart connection with the people. There are people in this room, there are people on the calls. So we invite you to just silently make a heart connection with each person present and each person on the call. And we extend that to even each person who might hear the replay. And then we make a heart link from our heart to the heart of the overlighting presence for this group, for this moment. We're watched over by divine beings, always, whether we're individually watched or collectively watched. Make another heart connection with the heart of Mother Earth. And as we do this, we create a divine geometry, a sacred three-dimensional space. And into that, we set our intentions. Our intention is to love and to share and to accomplish that which is the highest good for all concerned. And more recently, in our exploration of this, we've started moving this group field and connecting that into the planetary grid and into the groups and individuals that are serving the light all over the planet. And we also connect up with the solar companies and the galactic companies, the universal companies that are watching over our work and our lives and the transformation of the earth into the fifth dimension, bringing in the new, renewed Eden templates for the new golden age. So one of the lessons we learned from this is that when you set the fields with group consciousness and you just allow each person to speak, which is what we're not doing tonight at the moment, but each person who's anchoring their I am presence in the group situation, they might see someone share a song, or they might see someone speak truly from their heart, or to share some poem they'd written, or whatever it was, some request for sharing world service for healing something. Each person who spoke with that connection from their heart gave everyone else in the room permission to be more fully owning their I am presence and living from that and expressing it in public. So as we went along in that group, we began to notice that there were angelic and heavenly councils that came together, and that groups that use this field to work become the embodied aspect of those councils that have intentions for the greater health and well-being of the planet. And so I've just this last year been working with a group that's been doing that very thing. All over the world, we have people who are working with planetary healing collectively, and there's a council that works with us, and it's really an amazing experience. So there's a little bit of information about that on my last book, Peace, Love, and Healing. There's more information. The group I work with is called Bless All Life Council, and they have a website now, and that is bless-all-life.com. And we've been recording our calls, our planetary healing calls, for almost a year now, and they're available at the website if anybody wants to check us out, see what's been happening. And amazing teachers and amazing blessings, both personally and for the planet. So we're in this field now, but I'm going to go on with my agenda, so to speak. I tried to create an agenda that would give the very advanced people maybe something new to think about, some different way of working with tools they're already familiar with. So almost everybody who is involved in this various kinds of light work understands about grounding. And people have learned it in a variety of different ways. But what many people haven't realized is that you have had a third dimensional grounding cord for a long time, and it's time to replace it with a fifth dimensional grounding cord. Everybody's going, yeah, right, what about that? And so I'm going to give you the really simple and easy way to do this. There are more complex ways. But first you have to be willing to just release your other grounding cord, and we send it to the violet flame to transmute it. And we ask Mother Earth to give us a new fifth dimensional grounding cord. And the first time I did that, she reached up and she just gave a tug, and I went, oh, whoa, that was pretty cool. So I'm going to describe a little bit about what is happening with this fifth dimensional grounding cord. It still goes down into the heart of the earth, but it also links out into the new fifth dimensional templates for the planet. So you're just more deeply connected. So I hope I try to make that as simple as possible. If you try some of those videos, there's more complex ways of doing it also. So the next subject was new thoughts on working with the violet flame. And one of the things I wanted to talk about was that for many years I was reading about how the light comes into the universe and it gets stepped down at the galactic level, and it gets stepped down at the solar level, and then it's stepped down to the earth. And I began noticing things about the way we were working with the different colored rays, especially the violet flame, that at the third dimensional level, I think I like it. I always thought of it as somewhat like certainly rainbow colors, but also like Crayola colors. They're sort of dense and, but obvious. And then new rays were discovered coming in, or they'd already been here, but in very, very small quantities. And now they're coming in with enough intensity so people are actually noticing them and observing them and remarking on them. One of the things I've noticed, and I wanted to just share this thought as widely as possible, is that if you read a variety of different authors talking about the rays and the angels connected to them and so on, you will find a lot of opinions that sound different from one another. And one's immediate reaction to that is, well, one of them must be right and one must be wrong. But in fact, I'm believing that what's happening is people are tuning in to these frequencies and these rays and these angels and masters on different levels of consciousness. And so probably they're mostly right. If it sounds loving and has an aspect of truth for you, I'd say if it resonates for you, then that's an explanation that you feel comfortable with, then work with that. And if you're beginning, I had a class one time with Barbara Brennan, who's a fairly well-known world teacher of healing and has had her own teaching establishment in New York City for many years. But I was taking a class with her, and she's giving the colors of the chakras as the traditional colors of the rainbow. And one of the students says, but when I look at the heart chakra, it looks pink to me, not green. And Barbara said, big revelation for me, she says, it's a different dimensional reality, and you see it in a different color. It's not wrong. It's just higher frequency. And that got me thinking about what's happening. So I noticed that you've got the rainbow colors on the earth, and the rays and the masters that work with them. And we've got the new hidden colors, or formerly hidden, now revealed. And I know many of you are from the Heart Center, and you've got one set of colors, and I work with several other people who have other sets of colors. And I finally said, well, they're just different dimensional realities. That none of them seem wrong. They're just different way of experiencing different things. So but what I did notice about them when they started coming in and being revealed is they were described as iridescent. And that was at the same time that people were noticing that new rays were coming in, or more intensely, just a higher proportion now. Is you suddenly noticed that there was a lot of iridescence in the costumes people were wearing, and the little kids would have little iridescent glitter all over their shoes and so on, and that is all quite new. and it came in with rays. So those are called, the 12 rays is like the solar level, that iridescent level. And then the galactic level, I'm beginning to think that that level is at a laser level. So you get this really intense, it's just like a laser beam in the different rays. And as we began working with the universal level energies, then we began noticing we were calling on the diamond rays. And many years ago when I lived in Berkeley, there was a man, I think that was Hamid Almas, who was teaching a lot of work on the diamond work of Hamid Almas, basically. And a very limited number of people were being attracted to it. Well, I got one of the books, and I had trouble reading it at the time. And now that I'm starting to do more diamond work, I'm thinking, well, maybe I ought to reread those books. It's probably time. But I recently had a communication with Paul the Venetian, who's holding the office of the Mahat Chohan, which is an aspect of a Holy Spirit, is the office of the Holy Spirit on the planet. And so I said to him, well, what do you do? It's like, what's the nature of the work you do? It's pretty amazing, but what would you describe it as? And he says, all the energy that comes to the planet, I'm the one who redirects it where it needs to go. So I thought, well, that's pretty cool. So presumably there are Chohans at the level of the solar system, at the level of the galaxy, and at the level of the universe that are, helping to reset how much is going where and so on, and that's quite a big job. So in case that's helpful to you, the reason I bring it up is sometimes when we're doing the planetary healing work, we're certainly doing a lot of planetary stuff, but the Earth seems to be getting issues that we're working on, but we're doing it for like the solar system or for the galaxy or for the universe. And when we're working on those larger scales, we're finding that it's more helpful to be working with those precise kinds of rays. So if you'd like to do that. So the next thing on my list to talk about is clearing what no longer serves you. And the reason for that is as we enter the fifth dimension, and pretty much everybody has noticed that the Schumann resonance has been elevating like crazy. And there are times when there are different portals that are opening. They're certainly all over the internet, as I mentioned. It's a new portal, and there's a new wave of light coming in here and there. So if you're reading, observing the internet at all, then you'll be familiar with the number of people that are talking about these things. But what they don't mention is that as the frequencies go up, it means that those density things that we've been able to tolerate for years, especially in our own thoughts, habits, and behaviors, they're up all right, but they're not comfortable and they can't stay. But they've come to say goodbye, I like to put it that way. So let's just take a moment, and I'd like to work with guided visualizations. So I invite people to imagine a campfire in the center of the room, and we make it violet. And we just ask the angels to help us release anything that no longer serves us. And head to toe, and just allow it to go. Just allow it to go and allow it to go. And some days, that feels good, and you might not think you want to do it again for a while, but lately it seems like every day would be a good idea for some of those things about what we're releasing. You don't actually have to know what it is. You might, but in some ways, not knowing what it is better, because then you get it before it's like in your face that you can't miss it. So I encourage people to remember that. And that brings me to my next subject here. Oh, yes, I want to say that before. Well, no, I'm going to say this twice. Nature abhors a vacuum. That's a truism of physics. We just cleared a bunch of stuff out. So you want to refill with something more appropriate. So I encourage people to imagine a gold sun over the top of their head and just allow it to descend into your heart and fill you back up with gold light. But some people might prefer a rainbow or, some other wonderful color that they like to work with. But always remember to refill yourself up, because there's lots of random energy floating around that isn't necessarily the best. Especially, you might notice this, particularly if you go to a mall or Walmart or something. It's always a good idea to have your protections on. Which brings me to this other thing. This is one of the most common things when I'm working with clients that pretty much everybody needs, from the most sophisticated teachers to people that barely know what I'm talking about. And that is, they pick up, if you're at all sensitive energetically, the tendency is to pick up other people's emotional energy that they have. I say, the nice way of saying it is that they very nicely shared with the world, and sometimes they share that by yelling or complaining or criticizing or a variety of other things. But the very sensitive person will go, well, that's not good in the room, so they somehow absorb it. And it's like on another plane of existence, we knew how to do that, but we also knew how to clear it. But when we arrived on the planet, we knew how to do that, but didn't know how to get rid of it. We didn't even know we did it. So a lot of people are going around carrying other people's emotional stuff. So more violet flame in the center, and we ask the angels to clear other people's emotional energy that we might have picked up. It tends to really accumulate in the second chakra area, in the abdominal area, but it's not limited to that. So we just release, and we bring in more light, more gold sunlight to fill us and to it does many things. In addition to everything else it soothes and heals all that was going on within us when we were carrying all this energy that was uncomfortable, basically. So I just wanted to share those two things, because it's not that people don't know to do these things, but they probably don't know the extent to which it's useful. Now, if you really want to know something about how much you might have picked up someday or who it came from, I recommend using a crystal bowl in front of you. Before it gets to the violet flame, you just put that energy in a crystal bowl in front of you and imagine that you can see what's going in there. And I've seen sludge, and I've seen all sorts of things going into that crystal bowl. And you can, if you find you've met somebody and you're not really comfortable with their energy, you can just say, put that energy into the crystal bowl. I want to see what it is I might have picked up. And sometimes it's just pink, love light. It's like, oh, well, that's all right, But other times it's might be murky or full of little bits and pieces of things. So it just depends on what you see. But if you want to know something about if you feel a strange relationship with maybe a new person or something, you just want to know, is this a good thing or is it not a good thing? That's one way to do it. And then you just send everything into the violet flame and refill. Okay, so the next point on this was clearing for the planetary field. So often we do clearing for our own issues. It's like, oh, that person just broke my heart, or, oh, I can't, whatever your problem is, we do the clearing for ourselves for whatever issue it is. But I encourage everyone to spend an extra 5 minutes and ask that whatever you've just done for yourself or maybe for a friend, you multiply the effect and feed it around the planetary field for all the people on the earth that are suffering from that problem. Because one of the things that people have told me over the years is, I've cleared that issue and cleared it and cleared it and cleared it, and it keeps coming back. Well, it comes back because you're so good at clearing it, you're pulling it in from the planetary field so you can have some more to work on. Well, if you do it all at once, then it doesn't keep coming back, basically. So just a thought on that. Okay, so those are things that I think most people, even ones who are very familiar with violet flame, may not have thought about in that particular way. So my next item is talking about the blue pearl. I'm pretty sure that was a meditation gift that Yogananda talked about in his book, Autobiography of a Yogi. And it seemed like it took years of really dedicated meditation before you'd have this gift of this wonderful seeing the blue pearl and receiving it. Well, last year, my friend is a channel for the Ascended Masters also, and she started doing a series of classes from Jesus. And I attended, and one of the gifts he gave everyone was the blue pearl. And I shared that with a couple of people, and what I realized is that because the energies have so amplified on the planet, it's really easy to access this blue pearl energy. So I'm going to invite everybody, close your eyes, and just ask your angels and your higher self to give you this assistance, and just feel the blue pearl can come into your heart, it can come into your third eye, it can surround you. But wherever it comes in, it's just this exquisite, lovely, beautiful energy. So we can fill the room with it even. So I just invite everyone to receive that blue pearl energy. It's such a gift right now when there's so many concerns and tensions that people are experiencing because of the pandemic and many of the consequences of it. So just feel yourself enveloped in that loving, beautiful, pearlescent energy. And it's that simple. It's just that simple. And it's that time. We're doing pretty good. Okay. So one of the things I wanted to talk about was some clearing techniques and issues. Many people are working with clients or friends. They're sharing some of the techniques with them. And I'm trying to think the best way to present this. We're going to start by increasing the protection around the field, because I'm going to be talking about some stuff that requires this. So Archangel Michael promised he was going to be with me for this talk, and so he's here now. And he's surrounding this room and the space of every single person who listens to this, whether at the live call or in the replays. And just know that you're completely surrounded and protected as we do this work. But the reason I say that is because we're talking about demons. Now, a lot of people don't know this about demons, but their job is to magnify any negativity you might have that you're not paying attention to. So I like to say, thank you very much, but could you find another technique, please? But that's what their job is, and they're pretty good at it, unfortunately. But if you're being bothered by a demon, or you know somebody who is, we've been given this wonderful gift of how to get rid of them pretty easily. And mostly I call Archangel Michael to do all the work, but this is what we ask him to do. We ask him to take a platinum net and to surround the space, either myself or the individual, and collect and bind any negative entity of any sort and take it to its own right place for healing and transformation of the light. But basically, a lot of exorcism used to cast out demons, but they just sent them somewhere else. They just went somewhere else. They didn't really get rid of them. And this technique actually gets them off the planet. And it also works for some of the lesser entities that a lot of the demons the bigger ones seem to have been taken, but I've noticed an influx of the smaller ones that may have skipped, been not seen correctly. So until we get the fullness of the fifth dimensional divine blueprint and all the perfections that we'll be experiencing, it's a handy tool to have. And so you can do yourself, your car, your home, the city, the planet. Just ask Michael to deal with it. So in case that's something that comes up in your life, that was useful. And this is really for people doing more advanced work in healing and working with the planetary field. We've begun noticing that some of the things that need to be cleared from the planet are not coming from this universe. And so when we call on Archangel Michael and Commander Ashtar for any kind of extraterrestrial negativity to clear that, these guys don't have to listen, apparently. So the next level is to ask for Archangel Michael and or Commander Ashtar and his team of the Galactic Federation, or their equivalent in whatever universe this thing came from. And that takes care of it. It's a simple thing, but just a little hint there. Okay, one of the things that I wanted to talk about is what a friend of mine called blatant advertising. This is my most recent book, Peace, Love, and Healing. It's actually 3 books, but they were kind of short, so I combined them in one. And they were given to me all not simultaneously, but in a linear fashion, all in one grouping. These are new teachings from Jesus, and there's some really wonderful stuff in it. He talks about peace a lot. I mean, it's one of the books, actually. And he puts it in the context of manifesting and the void. Now, a lot of people don't know about the void and the Tao. But the void, Mother Mary, bless her heart, once took me on a trip into the void. And she said, all right, go into the void. So I said, all right, there I am in the big nothing. All right. She says, now, imagine you have a microscope and you can turn up the magnification. What happens? And all of a sudden, I could see that the void was really filled with all these little tiny particles of potential matter randomly all over the place. And that they were beginning to flow. And that's what creates the Tao. And I'm very aware that in the Tao it says, if you think you know what the Tao is, that's not it. So there's a great deal more, I'm sure, but there was another level. So she says, turn it up another notch here. And so I could see all those particles of potential randomly, and then they began moving into form because of the things we thought, we said, and we did that were the components of creating our reality. So I saw this giant whirlwind coming into form, which was the flow of the Tao. And on the outside of this whirlwind, it was just like a cyclone. It was very chaotic. And on the very center of it was a place of perfect peace, just like the stillness in the center of a cyclone, right? So I experimented one day. I just sat myself down in a beautiful oriental rug with a nice medallion in the middle of it, and I said, I'm going into that place of perfect peace. I want to see what happens. And when I got there, I looked around and I saw that all the things that I thought I needed or wanted or didn't even know I needed yet were on their way to me already. And I also saw that there was this big field of energy all around keeping it out. And those were my fears. It was like, if you've seen those circular water fountains where it goes up and down, So I said, okay, those are my fears. So I just dropped them down. I just said, we were going to just drop this whole thing. So I just, in the place of perfect peace, all that you need comes to you effortlessly. We were talking earlier about synchronicity, about everything happening automatically, and that's been one of my goals for many years, is to be in that place of that. So then I realized that synchronicity happens when you're living from that place of perfect peace. So it's one of the things they don't mention in The Secret about manifesting, but it's a very important thing. But Jesus talks about a whole lot of minute details about manifesting in one of the chapters. And he says, well, I'm not trying to belabor the point too much, but you have to know that if you say you're going to do something and you change your mind, all the momentum that you have just developed for that, what you were going to do, disappears, and you have to build a whole new momentum for the new thing. So changing your mind isn't impossible to do, or it's not even always a bad idea, but that is the effect of what happens. And then he tells a story about carrots. He says, let's say you want to have carrots for dinner. Somebody has to have planted the carrot seeds and grown them. And then someone else has to harvest them and take them to a shop where you can purchase them. And then you have to go to the store and pick out which ones you want and so on. He says, or you might have grown them yourself and you had to take the time to plant and to water and to hoe and to harvest and to bring them into the kitchen and wash them and so on. He said, and I want you to know that maybe the truck carrying the carrots to the store has a flat tire one day. That could be because some kid is yelling at his home, I hate carrots. And that's, the energies go somewhere, and they go into that which is affected by the subject matter. So we know that love is the attractive principle. So the opposite of love, which in some ways you could say that's the illusion of separation in the third dimension. But we have experienced the opposites for a long time. We really have explored duality far more than I wish to continue doing, I must say. I'm glad that we're moving into oneness and out of duality. But anyway, we got the lesson, I think. So love attracts, and it's a magnet that draws things together. And so for whatever you're manifesting, if there's negativity being thrown at it or whatever, that undermines the attraction of your, which is one of the reasons they often say if you're wanting to create something, if you've got an idea and you're building it and so on, don't talk about it too much, because you want to hold your focus and rather than so that's just one of the wonderful things in this book. And I say that because I was just looking up some things because we were talking about peace in one of our calls. And I was looking at every chapter and it was like, wow, maybe I should use that, or maybe I should use that. I said, gee whiz, maybe I ought to read my own book again because it's got all this stuff in it. So it's got a lot of exercises in it. It's got a journey to the Temple of Peace by Peace and Aloha. It talks about the seventh dimensional miracle wand, which I'll share with you briefly. Jesus just handed me a wand, you know. He says, this is the seventh dimension. He knew I wanted to do miracles, so he says, here's your miracle wand. And it does a lot of things, but one of the main things it seemed to do was bring up a lot of my stuff. So I had to clear it. But it clears curses, it clears spells, and it does all sorts of things. And there's a whole protocol, which when I was writing the book disappeared. And I was all upset. Oh, what am I going to do? You know, I couldn't find it. I didn't know what, the file just was gone. And then like 3 weeks later, it suddenly reappeared. I thought, is that the same? I didn't even know if it was the same one, but it was there. I was taking it, you know. But when I'd been working with a different wand. It's called a present time wand, which had been fourth dimensional, looked like a Harry Potter wand. And now this new wand, oh, and then it moved to a fifth dimensional wand, the present time wand, which I'm not going to talk about today, but it's in one of the other books. And it looked totally different. It was like a long selenite wand, basically. But it's etheric, so you know, I have a real one so I could show it to people, but I said, this is the actual wand right here, you know. It's not the symbolic crystal. It is a crystal on the inner planes. But, so when I got the new wand, I don't know what I was expecting, but it was like full of technology. It had an on-off switch. It had a high, medium, and low switch. And it was like, and then I lost it. Oh, no, I broke it. That's what happened. And it's because with the a friend of mine, I told her about the present time wand, and she went out and got one of those little fairy wands so she could practice with it. And she's whacking and everything to fix things. Yeah. And she broke her wand, and I was kind of teasing her because I said, it's etheric. You can't break it yet. So what did I get? I got to break my wand, and it took me weeks to figure out how to fix it. And, you know, it's all in my mind, of course, and I knew what had happened. But if you don't know this about the masters, they have a sense of humor, and they're more than willing to share it with you. So anyway, there's a lot of information on the miracle wand. There's a visit or an exercise to go into the chamber of the Sacred Heart, and just all sorts of things. And this is the book that has the exercise on the unified field and so on. So that's all I have at the moment, but I think we have time for questions.
Well, I want to say hello to all the people online. Lori and Christy and Leslie on the Facebook. Gloria and Kathleen on the Heart Center server. And David and, of course, Chloe. Yes. So it's funny about wands too, because I call it the magic hammer to fix computers.
Oh yeah.
And so I have a magic hammer. It's kind of like Thor's hammer, but I don't even have to, in some instances, I just have to step in the room and the computer works.
Oh yeah.
So
they know the master when he shows up.
And they know not to I really enjoyed your presentation. I got a lot of wonderful insights, and I love the idea of the void and the place of perfect peace. And I could see how you were traveling in consciousness and in your God presence to these beautiful places that the Divine Mother took you, and to show you and I can collaborate. Those places are there. And I want to also say that in the void, seeing the void as a living, breathing potential of creation is, wonderful. You said it so wonderfully and beautifully that I got some new insights myself from that vision of your experience there. So does anybody have any questions here?
It can be about anything.
It could be about... I also want to let everyone know online that Michaela is doing private sessions while she's here in California for 1 week, that you can contact her or contact me, and I will give you her information. You can leave a message on the chat if you desire. And her books are here, and other products that she is selling. And you're welcome to stop by. Just call and make an appointment first. Also, she'll be attending all the services here at the Temple of Clarity, and you can come early and chat with her. And she will be signing all of her books when you purchase them, so you'll get a signed book.
Yeah. I just want to say something about the books that a friend of mine reminds me of. He says, I've read them probably 4 or 5 times now, and every single time I open the book, I learn something new, even if it's the same thing I've read before. So he says they're ever giving.
Yeah, books are written on many levels.
Yeah.
Kathleen Marie Alexander Beasy is online, and she says, can you expand on the new rays, the crystal rays being incandescent?
Iridescent.
Iridescent. Yeah, I don't have my glasses on. And the more subtle than the Crayola crayons, and being more subtle than the Crayola crayons.
Yes. Well, I have to say that years ago, one of my initiations, or tests maybe, was to figure out what the 5 hidden secret rays were. And it may not have been the best way to go about doing it. It was where I was at the time, was I looked at all the things that I saw wrong on the planet, and I figured the new rays were the opposite. So we had a lot of war, so peace was one of the rays. And I had a lot of unclarity and uncertainty, so clarity was one of the rays. And we had a lot of discord and disharmony, so harmony and synthesis was one of the rays. And we had a lot of unhappiness, and joy was one of the rays. And then a lot of people were looking for glory in all the wrong places, so glory in the right places and from the right sources was one of them. So in many ways there's similar, some overlap, and I've noticed David mentioning very specifically in some of his talks, focusing on peace and harmony and joy and even clarity. Not so much the transfiguring divine love glory ray, but we're all aware of it, in different ways. But what in particular, so I can't really talk about the rays that David works with because they're a little different in concept and name and so on. But there was a time many years ago when people were announcing there are now 22 new rays. They're now, and I lost the little piece of paper that had them all delineated. And in fact, I knew what group it came from, and I couldn't find them anymore either. So apparently it wasn't all that necessary for me to know them. But there's just a lot that is happening. So I honor what David's getting, and I honor this. I got the rays myself, but Patricia Cota-Robles and another friend of mine who works very closely with Jesus had gotten basically the same information, so I decided that sounded good enough for me, and I went with it. And so I've had those rays probably maybe 25 years or maybe longer.
Beautiful, beautiful. I see the truth in what you're saying. I like the idea, the concept that every virtue is a color of some kind, or multicolors.
It's a frequency which can present
that
as color,
shines,
or it even can present as sound, I suppose.
So every beautiful thing,
yeah.
every beautiful virtue is a beautiful shining light,
yeah.
and has its own shade and subtleness to it.
Yeah.
I think there are bigger categories that the larger creators of universes use to create with, and those are the 7 rays and the 5 secret rays, which we call them the rainbow crystal rays now.
Right. Well, I've been noticing that when people talk about the new rays, they end up talking about that from the solar rays, and so there's a whole new list of colors to go with the solar level rays. And basically what we're learning is there's a whole lot that we forgot. There's a whole lot to learn again and to remember. Oh, the other thing I want to mention is that with the iridescent rays, that basically means they're actually holding all the colors. They may be a particular frequency, but all the colors are represented in there. So all the qualities, and I mean, think about the archangels in charge of the different rays. Well, they can do all of those things. They're not like limited to, I can only work on this stuff. They can do everything. So some are maybe more potent than others, or certainly the archangels have certain authority over certain things. But I wouldn't doubt that I'd be protected well by most of the archangels, I would think. It's just we get accustomed to calling on Michael and his team. And apparently Mary, I don't know if you've heard this, but she has a whole blessing team that has come in or has been working with her, but apparently there's this whole array of Marys, of energetic holding, and they're pouring down blessings on the earth. You ask and you can get these blessings just pouring down. So.
Well, let's accept all those blessings and be a blessing to others as we continue our march towards embodying all these light rays ourselves. And I want to thank you for coming and for sharing with us
your
welcome. Love and your light and your wisdom. And
I just want to say thank you. I wanted to say one thing, that the books are on Amazon, which means that you can read a sample of any of them. There are 3 books. And so if you go on a search on Amazon, you won't find them easily unless you use my last name. And then they all come right up. And the last name is Cordeo, Cordeo. So you go to books and you write down Cordeo, and all the books come up, and you get to a really nice sampling of each one.
Beautiful, beautiful. Well, in closing this session, will you do the closing prayer for us and everyone online, and we will stand with you or pray with you in spirit?
Oh, you want me to stand?
No, you don't have to.
Okay, good.
Anything you want to do, we're going to...
I want to thank Archangel Michael and all the divine beings, Lady Clarity and this beautiful space, and all the people that have joined us online or personally. And thank you. Thank you all for your presence, for your love, for your generosity in all the ways that service is happening for each of us on this planet, all the blessings that are being received. Thank you, Saint Germain, for all this violet flame that we have used and still have only touched the surface of what can be done. Thank you, everyone who has dedicated their life to this work and all the love you share. And thank you, God, for giving us this opportunity to come together and know in our hearts that we are one. And more we are learning that we are one. So be it. I thank you all. And as Tiny Tim once said, God bless us, everyone.
Amen and amen. Good night, everyone, and God bless you. We will be broadcasting again tomorrow, 7:30, for the Divine Mother worship service and rosary. Join us if you can. And good night.